All right, welcome to Camping Pups RV. We're finally back from the road, our 2 month experiment, and we wanted to go through today and kind of recap some of what we saw and what we did, but also where we have visited and what we learned off this 2 months. So, for those of you that aren't aware, we typically RV in the summer and fall. Do a week here, 3 4 days there. And this year we decided to test run full
Mhm.
time. So we went on the road for 2 weeks and ended up having not 2 weeks. I'm sorry, went on the road for 2 months and figured out, working from home, seeing the areas that we go to, getting in time for some of your more of your uh, vacation type stuff too. And so we're going to recap some of the stuff that we encountered. With that, we had on May 31st is when we hit the road. So we packed up a couple days before, everything except the food. The food was the night before once we had plugged in. We do have a 30 amp plug at our house. So we were able to get everything pre-powered, get the refrigerator cool, all that type of stuff. But things to consider when you're packing, especially for a longer term, is space. Your RV does not have a lot of space, so you got to determine what you're taking with you. Similar to packing for vacation, how many sets of clothes you're going to do, that type of stuff. But along with that, you want to know climates, everything else, because you only have so much space. So laundry is going to be an important thing on the road, scheduling your time for that. Um, you want to talk about anything that you had to think about before we left or anything like that?
Being a diabetic, I had to make sure that I had all my medicine for the entire duration. Um, Currently, I'm on three different insulin types, so I had to make sure that I had enough. I had enough insulin to carry me through the entire time that we were gone. Um, that was the biggest thing, was trying to make sure that I had all of that.
Hmm. So we started off and we ended up hitting the road, like I said, on the 31st. Our first stop was just an overnighter. Most of our trips we did longer than that because of the pups, but we wanted to get down to Florida by a certain date. So we stopped in South Carolina. The place we went to was the Oaks at South Point. It is part of Thousand Trails. It was just a one night. It was a small little park, but it was kind of in wooded. All your sites were wooded. Um, and it was right on a lake, big lake there. So, what were your impressions of our overnight?
I thought it was really nice. It had a nice little walking trail around the lake. They definitely have gators that far
Hmm.
enough south, so you want to make sure that you're cognizant and aware of your surroundings while you're walking around, especially in the woods and near a water source. You want to
Hmm.
make sure that you're not coming across any gators, so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to um, any of the signage, you know, feet and tail track marks and things of that nature, or any unknown hissing, because
Hmm.
gators are known to hiss if they feel that you're encroaching on them. So trying to listen for things of that nature and trying to keep the pups from being too curious.
Yeah. And that was a big thing too. It's a nice trail around the lake to walk them, but there was places within the park to walk them too. They actually had a really big dog run too
Oh
over
yeah.
by the pool.
Oh
But
yes.
one thing you did have to worry about, like I said, as we're walking around there, the pups get very curious with creatures, especially in the brush. So when we were close to the lake, you had to kind of watch that they didn't get too close to the overgrowth right next to the lake, because that's another place where gators like to hide
Hmm.
on there. So, but they had a huge run dog park area, which was really nice. They did have a pool, but we were only there for one night. So we got in after hours and was leaving in the morning. So we didn't get a chance to do the pool, but it was looked pretty nice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very nice. Very
So,
nice. Very quiet. Everybody that we encountered while we were out walking the pub seemed very friendly.
mhm. Then we ended up in Hudson, Florida, which is in the outskirts of Tampa. The reason for that was our first stop was going to be the Tampa Bay's summer RV show. It's not the big one that they do in January. We will be back for that. But it was pretty good size. And the one we were at, Barrington Hills, is part of Encore Resorts. The people staying there were more of a older group and more long term. The only issue I really had was they had one bathhouse and it was badly in need of renovation. You literally had like one shower in the men's side, one shower that was still working, urinal was out, so you had like two toilets, one shower, and the other showers were out because they were missing cinder blocks and stuff like that. So they really needed to do something with that. Your actual site, they do let you set up however you need to set up on there.
The women's side wasn't too bad. I did a video on that. And on the women's side, all the showers were working. They're a little narrow. Even the handicap one was a little narrow. It wasn't that much bigger than the regular ones. All the toilets appeared to be working. They had a fan in there to use to help to kind of push the shower steam around and things of that nature. So that was kind of nice. The laundry facility was phenomenal. Very well. Is clean. Plenty of washers, plenty of dryers. Unless you were one of the people that left your clothes in the dryer. So.
And hold on one second. Let me adjust just a moment here. We've been on the road for 2 months. I'm not used to being back in the studio, so I had to set our lighting a little better so we can see you more. But after doing the Tampa Bay, we got a lot of good video walkthroughs of different RVs there. Those will be coming out over the next month or two. But after that, we decided we wanted to go down and hit the Keys. We've never been really south of Miami.
No.
So we decided to go down and hit Keys. The particular resort we were at was also another Encore, was Sunshine Key on Big Pine Key. It's literally the key right before that, but the address is Big Pine. And it takes basically about 45 minutes from there to Key West.
Yeah.
Mostly because you're doing about 35 to 45 on the road there, depending on where you're at. So it's not like 45 miles to Key West. It's that you aren't doing, highway speed, really. But it is a gorgeous campground. They recently, we found out, rebuilt a lot of it. They were hit bad in a hurricane a couple years ago. So they've rebuilt it. So that might be one of the reasons they're very strict on their rules. It is a resort. This would be one. I've often wondered what the criteria is for an RV to be an RV resort as opposed to just a campground. I think it has to do with amenities, but this one definitely would be one of the ones that I would consider a resort. The problem is you do have longer term people there, so they complained. The winds were fairly high the whole time, so we couldn't have our awning out. So we put a second canopy. Apparently that was a no-no. So we got a note from the office that we had to take one down because you can only have one. But later we saw other people with multiples up. You couldn't have dog fins, but other people that were hidden away had it up. So I don't know if they were just a longer term or it's just because the people that were around us on there. But it is a campground and marina, so you had people with their boats and stuff like that. Different activities. We did do a sip and paint while we were there.
They had bingo night.
Bingo night. So they had different activities going up there as well.
And they even have it where it's adults and then you have children or you have a mix.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends. So it's kind of nice that they actually utilized everything. And they even have what they call a tech system. So they will put out in the text the events that are going on. Unfortunately, the time that we got the information about the bingo night, we got it five
after it
minute
started.
5 minutes before it was getting ready to end. So we actually got to play the last game of bingo night. And so I talked to the activities person and they remedied that. And we actually started receiving the text in the morning about the events that were going on.
Yeah.
So that was a kind of a nice fix.
Now, one thing that we had to adjust to was I was working from the road, and that was part of the whole idea, was to see what it's like to be full time. So we didn't have a 2-month vacation. At least I didn't. I had to work during the day, but I do work remote, so we were able to adjust for that. One thing that was a little unfortunate was the time we were down in the Keys. It seemed like the evenings when I got off work was when it decided to come in with rainstorms.
Oh, yes.
Almost every day. But I did take an extra day, so we got about 3-day weekend where I was completely off to go down to Key West and
walk
around and do some of the activities. We did do a sunset cruise, which was really nice.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Sunsets are awesome in Key West. I can see why they have the sunset festival, if you will, every night from one of the parks where they watch the sunset there. So before we got ready to leave, though, we did pick up, we parked at one of the restaurants on our way back and apparently picked up a nail or a screw. Actually, yeah, it was a carpenter's nail. And that did give us a flat. The only problem with that being in the Keys, I didn't have an air pump. So if you have air pump, I would recommend like compressor, bring it along with you when you're on the road, because I had to have someone come out to patch the tire, where if I took it into a shop, because it was after hours, if I took it in the shop the next day, it would have been a lot cheaper. But if I waited till the next day, the tire would have been completely flat. It was completely loaded because we were leaving the next day. So I didn't want to load everything to get to a spare. And we were going to be traveling all the way up to Orlando. So I didn't want to do that on flat toe on a spare. So call someone out. Since we were in the Keys, it was like an extra like couple hundred to get it done than it would have been to go into the shop. So that's one of the things, is be prepared for emergencies and any type of road issues, whether it's with the RV or your vehicle on there. But with that, that brought us up to Orlando and the 1,000 Trails in Orlando. What'd you think of that?
Huge. It was so huge, and unfortunately we hit while it was like really super hot, and so I wasn't able to do my normal walk around and get video of the resort like I normally do, but I did get video of the amenities that they have there. So that, that we'll have to do, because it was just really huge.
And one thing about this, we hit Florida during technically their off season, being June, because it's so hot. A lot of people go down later, so there were a number of campsites open on the campground.
Oh yeah.
Which made it nice, because one of the difference, the Encores that we stayed at outside Tampa and in the Keys is assigned spots. The regular 1,000 Trails in Orlando is a traditional 1,000 Trails where you pick your site when you show up. So we found a nice spot. Danielle really did under a really big tree, which was nice because our shade, I normally didn't even have to bring the canopy out for shade, as hot as it was, until like 3 p.m. So that made it very nice. The only downside, they had 2 pools, big rec room, activities. Those were all great. The only downside is anything extra, it seemed like $5 was a magic number, because if you had someone visiting, they had to get a parking pass, which is $5. If you had anything delivered, like Amazon or something like that, or mail, that was a $5 handling fee. When we did the on Saturday, they had a kind of yard sale thing where you could set up for free at your site or go into the rec center and get a table. Tables were $5. So it seemed like 5 was a magic number with them. But that was the one thing. It was a big site. It's a nature preserve, so you had a lot of wildlife. But with that, you had a lot of things that were extra on there. But being in Orlando, there was a lot of things to do. Of course, you have all the theme parks. You have the stuff adjacent to the theme parks, like Disney Springs for shopping, stuff like that. But there's a lot of things in Orlando that's not related to theme parks to do. You have the water parks, and we did a full video, one of these live streams from Orlando, where we went over some of those things. But there's some unique stuff we did. We did the beer spa, which is on our channel here, and Al Capone's dinner theater. So a lot of fun things we did without dropping a fortune to go into the theme parks on there. But
Oh yeah, the beer spa was really really nice. It was different. It was really nice though. But you got to sit in the hot tub, drink beer, or sit in a sauna, drink beer, lay on the hay bed, drink beer. See the common theme: beer.
Yeah, it was all you could drink while you were in there. So you had an hour, hour and a half, depending on how much you paid for on there.
And the ambiance was awesome.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate June was our anniversary month, and so we kind of made it a kind of like almost a month long thing, doing different things. And I did not know that he surprised me by setting it up as another anniversary treat.
So I let them know they reach out to you once you book and say, is there anything special, or are you just coming in for whatever? So I mentioned it was our anniversary, and for a very small extra, they decorate the whole place, put our names, happy anniversary name on the door, and then we went in, had balloons and all that stuff. So that was a nice surprise.
It was.
So when we left Orlando, so that was most of June. When we left Orlando, we went on our way to Oklahoma. Daniela's sister and her family live in Oklahoma, so we were going out there for the 4th. So you can't, well, you could, but it's not advisable to drive straight. You got to stop on the way, especially with RV. So we had 2 stops along the way. And one of the things we decided early on in planning out is that we weren't going to just do overnight on the way out, because that was a long trip for the pups to spend all day in the RV, get there overnight, and then leave early morning. So we decided to spend at least 2 nights. So we had a full day wherever we stopped. And I'm kind of glad we did, because the first place we stopped at, Talladega Creekside Resort, was a small resort. We came in after hours, but it was really nice. Great family that runs it.
It was hilarious because they texted. Brian is really good about letting our sites know, hey, GPS says we're going to be there about 5:30, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Most of offices close anywhere from like 4 to 7 on average. And so trying to find out what the after hours procedures are for, coming in after they close. And they're like, oh, well, we're just going to put a black trash bag over the site that you're going to be at. We ended up coming in like around 9:30.
Yeah, at night.
And it's lights. Like, how are we supposed to find a black trash bag in the middle of this RV park? And as soon as we pulled in and our headlights hit, there it is.
Yeah, because they had most of the sites down the center. They had cabins around the side. Next to some of the cabins had some sites too, but you probably had like a dozen RV sites.
I think they said altogether they have 37.
Oh, okay. Well, in the center, it looked like about, in the middle, looked like about 15, 20,
Yeah.
And they're right in the middle, and no one else was there in the middle, so it was very easy to find it. But nice little place. They are literally right a few minutes from the raceway, Talladega Raceway.
Yeah.
So if you're going for a race, book ahead of time. It's a nice place to be, and you won't be like crowded in with everyone on there. And they are right on the river. They own a spot a little further up the river too, and they do river tubing. So they got a lot of people even that don't stay there that come up and pay to do the river tubing down there. So
you can do river tubing, kayak, either or, and they have a little shuttle, and they will run you up there from the start
and your
point.
Equipment if need be.
Yeah. And then you just tube down, and they have a sign that says, or a flag that says exit here. If you don't exit here,
if you do it, exit there.
If you don't, you end up like 12 miles down, and then there's some falls and stuff like that. And then it's a trek to get you back.
Yeah.
So
there's a couple things we saw. We weren't too far from the national forest, national park. So that had the highest point in the state. So that was kind of nice. Little hikeway.
Oh yeah.
And because they're so small, they do no long-term camping there. So they sign up their spots, but they just have so few that they can't have longer term. So if, like I say, if you're coming in for the race thing, check ahead of time. They do book up quick, but it's kind of a nice away from everything, but you're real close to there, unless you're going to actually bring your RV to the raceway, which I know a lot of people do.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah, we got to get you back down there because the views from the grandstand are just beautiful. I mean, I got to take the tour, and it was really really nice to see the whole raceway. And I mean, I was standing at the grandstand, and I can just envision the race and everybody being there, and the crowds and everything, and it was just awesome. And that particular weekend they were doing some kind of event. Nobody could say what the event was, but apparently it was the first time that they did the event. And for a small fee of $50, which is going to the local children's charity that they were fundraising for, that you could drive your vehicle on the racetrack 3 laps around. And we left Friday.
yeah, some people or some different racetracks do that. When I was stationed out in California, we had Laguna Seca right outside the back of the base, and they would do that on occasion. It was only like in a couple months or something like that, but they didn't do it that often.
But yeah, it was kind of nice. I was kind of curious about, it's like, well, how fast? Because on the curves, it's almost a 90-degree angle, but it was probably maybe 40, 45, but I mean, it's almost straight up. And I kept wondering, well, how fast do you have to go to hit those curves to stay on it? And the tour guide said, at minimum, you have to be going 85. I'm like, oh, that's not bad. I've done 85. I've done more than that, but I've done 85. So yeah, that would have been cool.
Cool. Yeah, that would be really nice. So if you're just joining us, don't forget to like and subscribe so you hit all the other episodes of Camping with the Pups and other videos on our page. So with that, we moved on to, after 2 nights, we moved on to the Ozarks, and that gave us more in the mountains. That was Golden Pond RV Resort, again, for 2 nights. They had shaded spots, nice relaxing location. The only issue with that was it was poor internet. And so those of you that were aware that followed the channel, we had to reschedule one of our weeks of our podcast just because we did not have strong enough. They had enough of a signal to check email and stuff. So I would have still been able to work from there, but it did not have enough to broadcast. So, but it was a nice relaxing location. The little town right next to it was nice. It had a little restaurant bar that we went into, and they were a lot of fun up there.
Apparently we came in on karaoke night.
Yep. And that was in Arkansas. I say Ozarks, but a lot of people may realize Ozarks goes across a couple states.
Yeah. Missouri, there, so. Arkansas.
Yeah. So this was in the Arkansas part. And then we finally made it into Oklahoma. So outside Oklahoma City in Yukon is RV park that we stayed at for the week at that point, which was Mustang Run. You can still find them on the internet off of Mustang Run. They just got bought out by another company and new management.
Camp Collective.
Yeah. But it's a nice little park. They got a small pool, decent sites. I mean, they're small. They're all paved, a little bit of grass, but small sites.
A lot of burrs.
They're right off of the highway, so it is more of a city centric type. And they are doing renovations with the new management. So they have like a big clubhouse, but the clubhouse was kind of open with the office, so they would close it at night. So while we were there, and they worked pretty quick because they just started framing up, and they pretty much had the drywall and doors up by the time we left of a petition wall between the two, so they can keep the clubhouse side open.
Oh yeah,
on there.
They're putting in a sidewalk stairs on one side.
Yep. So. And the main reason we were down out there, of course, visiting family, but was for 4th of July, because we always go down to South Carolina for 4th of July. And your sister was like, well, why don't you come out to Oklahoma? We really do 4th of July out here. Big. And they do. Mustang's one of the only areas in the local communities there that allow all the different fireworks to shoot up and everything. So you have everyone buying fireworks, setting off in the neighborhoods. And in addition to that, you have people coming in from outside there because they can actually set them off in Mustang. So
And no spot is left.
no, you got people after hours in parking
Yeah.
lots and everything else setting off stuff that's shooting up. So
Oh yeah.
literally, we got some video again. I'm just starting to edit since we came back from the road, and you got video of us looking all around us and stuff going up over here and there and
Yeah,
behind you and everything.
you literally had 360 degrees of views. I mean, you'd look over here, then something's happening over here, something's happening behind you over here. I
Yeah.
mean, there was just literally 360 degrees.
If you want to search, we saw it as well on social media. 4th of July or fireworks in Mustang, Oklahoma. You will see some people had some. They do every year. They had some drone footage of all the fireworks over Mustang.
And I mean, it literally was just.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is if you're a combat vet, Mustang is
Prepare yourself.
Mustang is not the place to be.
Prepare yourself because it is being a vet. It is not as bad because you know what's going on, but it is very reminiscent.
Yeah.
Of being in theater, you know.
Yeah. And definitely prepare your pups.
Oh yes. We do have a video on how to prepare for the 4th of July with your pups. It's called have a stress-free 4th of July for your dog, but that's on our channel. But after that, we headed up to Wichita, which we hadn't been to Wichita before. I hadn't.
Oh no, I've only driven by
through it. And the reason we went up there is our daughter and our grandbabies are right across into Missouri. But they were coming in to see family. And since we're in the area, we decided to camp up there and spend some time with them and the grandbabies. So we went to a place called Camp the Range. Again, right off the highway, but it's hidden back off the highway, meaning that once you're in the actual park, it has the areas in the middle where we were, which was all gravel. But then you have some tree line on one side of the park and open field on the other. And they did have a nice dog park, not as big as the one in South Carolina, but it was enough for the pups to run around and be off leash. And they had a playground next to it. And they were open to different configurations. We actually experimented a little bit, did the canopy a little further up front over our picnic table, because they did have a concrete pad, just not one you parked on. So they had a concrete pad where your picnic table and some space next to it. So it made it a little different for the way we set up our fence.
Yeah.
It made it a little further forward than we normally do. But that's the thing I like about the fences we do, because they're in panels, so I can do almost any shape to it. So they are open to different setups and everything. They do have a lot of long-term, and some of the long-term campers are Karens. Ours was a male Karen, which she keeps telling me is called Ken's, but I'm still going to call him a Karen. But we had some issue on that, and normally we're fine with. Eventually, it got to the point where, I had to let the management know that there was some issue. Mostly because he thought he was running the park and didn't like the fact that we had dogs, or whatever.
Which was really weird
because he had a dog.
He had a dog, and his dog was bigger than ours.
But we found out later it was because his dog, or he got in trouble because he left his dog tied out on leash, unsupervised, and all this stuff, where we were allowing our dog in a fenced area with us out there. But since he got in trouble, he wanted to complain to everyone else. But we talked to management. Management, though, is great there. They've taken over from previous management and really been working on their reputation and everything. And they are really good. They're very responsive. They're very... You got a different call from a Karen. But they're very good. They saw us and they're like, yeah, we know, y'all having a problem. Your dogs are wonderful. We've come by this site before when they're cleaning up and stuff like that. And they're very quiet and everything else. So the only downside I would say about that place, other than your neighbors, if you have an issue with, but that could be anywhere, is that they don't have a pool. That would be the only thing that I would say really keeps them from being, I guess, the definition of a resort amenities. They have very nice bathhouse, large showers
Yes.
in area, and very clean. They clean several times a day. They have a great kind of rec room
Yeah.
thing with books for loan, TV, all that stuff. So a lot of nice stuff there. Just the only thing is, if you're looking for a pool, they don't have it there. So we actually went to a local community like water park thing.
Yeah.
While we were there, which was nice.
They had actually a couple events going on that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They had a regional soccer tournament going for the nationals and a swim meet.
Yeah. So on the one side of us, we had a long term, not Karen. We never saw the person. We had a long term person on one side of us, and then the other side of us, we probably had 2 to 3 different RVs in there in the week we were there.
Oh yeah.
So,
and then they have one site that apparently is their
like
transition.
overflow. Yeah.
Their transition site. And surprisingly, they have up to 78, not 80,
Yeah.
maybe between 76, 78 slots.
And it doesn't look like it. It looks like a smaller park. It looks like I would just eyeballing it, figured about 50 something, but
Yeah.
it's apparently they have like 76 on there.
So
we eventually left Wichita, but there was a lot of things in Wichita. Nice little dive bars, stuff like that we went into.
oh yeah.
So very friendly, some great restaurants actually, and I've got a little video of that.
And the zoo, Sedgwick County Zoo, does Twilight Tuesdays, $5
getting in
all day.
You know, well, in the evening.
No, it's all day.
Is it all day?
It's all day.
Okay, because I thought it said after a certain time.
No, all day.
Okay.
All day. Twilight Tuesdays all day.
Okay.
So that was kind of nice. So of course, by the time Brian got off work, so we went in and they were actually having a concert as part of their Twilight. So a lot of people were grabbing their chairs and going and listening for the music, and so they were having a good time. They had a couple of trailers there for food. So.
And then from there, we were off to our final location, which was going to be in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Of course, that was a little ways to go. So we had a stop. Again, we were going to stop for multiple days so that we didn't have the pup back to back. And this one, we actually did an additional day. So instead of 2 nights, we were going to do 3 nights. Halfway there, which was in Minor, Missouri. And we did a park called Hinton RV Park. And I picked that place. There were several RV parks around there, but I picked that place for a couple reasons. Their webpage showed little pups when it talked there. They said they were pets welcome. Also talked about the restaurant. We get there and find out the restaurant they're talking about isn't on-site restaurant like it looked like, because they had a picture of their office building and stuff, which is big at the time. And when they said restaurant, but they were talking about a famous restaurant down the road.
Yeah.
That's there. And then also, they are not pet friendly. They may say pets welcome on their page, but you're not allowed to put up any fencing or any type of barrier, which some places aren't. That's fine. There's no dog walk area. When we asked about, they're like, oh, well, you can walk them over in that grass behind that closed down gas station, basically. There's no poop stations even set up to where you can drop off the poop or get bags or any of that type of stuff, which we always bring our own bags along on our leash, but still, it was not designed to be pet friendly at all. But no. So that was the only issue, was it didn't say that it said pets welcome, but it was, the webpage itself, in my opinion, was very misleading on why we booked there. Small bathhouse, fine. You go into the laundry room. Men's are one side, women's to the other. At least on my side with the men's, you had one toilet stall and one shower, and that's it. That was all bathhouse. Same on your side.
Same on the women's.
So it really was more, I wouldn't say it was a park that we would have intentionally, if I knew that, booked for several days. It seems more like you have some of your long term. But beyond that, it seems like a place where you're going to literally stay overnight to get off the road and go. It was inexpensive. It was like 45 if you had one of the discounts like military or Good Sam or something like that. But otherwise it was like $50 a night on there. But it is, though, it wasn't really what we were looking for with the pups. Since we travel with the dogs a lot, it wasn't very good for them. So this is probably the first park that we left early, even though I paid for the 3 days. We just, after we'd been there for a full day with them, so we weren't going immediately the next day, because that was the whole idea. We didn't want to, as I said before, have them in the RV all day travel, spend the night, and then leave early morning. So we did leave a day earlier, and called up the site we were doing in Tennessee to see if they had opening to come in a day earlier, and they did. So we hit the road.
Well, it definitely made packing up very quick and easy.
We didn't unpack much on there. So now one thing that we did find on this, and we'll talk about hints and lessons learned on the way, but one thing that we did, I know a lot of the draw to RV life is just hit the road and find a place and stop. Since COVID, that's been more difficult because places book up. So we did plot out our route and find parks ahead of time and went ahead and booked. So before we left in May, we had bookings for every place we were stopping. That's why, I already prepaid the 3 nights here, and I had to call the next place in Tennessee to see if we could get in earlier, and they did on there. But I know some people just like to hit and see what you can find. We have found places where I've been on the road and called around, and several places were booked up. So now we pretty much book ahead of time. But traveling on to Tennessee, so far things have been going well, other than our Jeep getting a flat in Key West, or in the Keys. So we're doing fairly well. And just outside Nashville,
on the east side
of Nashville, we got a blowout. And it was both rear tires on the driver's side. And luckily we were able to get over while towing a vehicle. Bit scary, because we have the video, our backup video, on at all times, so I can see the Jeep in tow, and I literally thought we had a breakaway because of the jolt of everything when those tires went. But we got over, called up. We have the tire warranty through Good Sam and Roadside, so we called them up. I would say on the Roadside and the stuff you got there, I have not been impressed with Good Sam at all. When we had an issue last time on the road, mechanical, and called, because we're a gas RV, not diesel, we had to eventually find our own, because they kept saying, "Oh yeah, we found someone there, they're coming out," and they never had. When I called back, found out that they even gave me the name of the company that was coming out, and I eventually called them directly, and they never got anything, to respond. So we eventually had to find our own mechanic, and we got a video on our channel about that breakdown and the people that rescued us on that. But this time was tire. The dispatch was better, because the person they contacted there, they said it'd take an hour and a half. Good Sam did. He was there in a half hour, but there's a third-party company that responds. But where I would say the service isn't the best is on their tire warranty thing. It's not just tire warranty; it's actually roadside and all that. What they do there is they tell you must pay out of pocket and then submit everything to try to get reimbursed. So for 2 tires on the rear, that was over $800 to get fixed. So we're in the process now that we're home of trying to get that done. So if you have their roadside or their tire thing, make sure you have an emergency fund, because you aren't getting it taken care of anytime quick.
Yeah, no.
On there. But like I said, the tech himself was very responsive. worked very well on seeing what needed to be done and getting the tire and stuff like that. They got the information ahead of time before they came out, so they had the tires on the vehicle. But in Tennessee and probably other places, some of the truckers are absolutely horrible. I hate to say that. Some of them were great. I walked, first off, the state patrol didn't come for like an hour, but
Yeah, the
so
last 20
we were
minutes.
pretty much done changing the tire by then. But I walked about 100 yards or so down to flag people that, hey, we're on the side, not just we're on the side of the road, but he's on that side changing the tire so that people have plenty of time to get over. And I was 100 yards down, but your visibility was probably about a quarter mile. So they were seeing me from about a quarter mile away. Most people were getting over, slowing down. There were some truckers that just didn't care and was very dangerous and just buzzed by him, even though he had a jacket and stuff. And talking to him afterwards, he was saying, unfortunately, some of the truckers are like that. That they're some of the worst people as far as getting over. But a lot of them, to be fair, a lot of them did see us and got over and did stuff. But
Yeah.
there's just some that just on the road that just don't care. So always be careful. And this was broad daylight, luckily.
Yeah.
I'd hate to have seen if it was a nighttime.
Oh gosh.
And him trying to change that. But we finally got to Pigeon Forge. One of the first things, though, since the tire went out, was it also hit the hookup for your sewer hose. And so that disconnected that PVC piping from the tanks. And luckily, because we have the tank heaters, those are also wrapped around those pipes. So it was hanging, so we didn't lose it. It was hanging underneath the vehicle from the wires, basically. So I was able to disconnect that, put it in a side compartment till we got to Pigeon Forge. And the first night we had no water, so we had to keep going to the bathhouse.
That was fun.
For anything. Not that you didn't have water, but there was nothing hooked up to either tank, gray or black. So you couldn't even turn your regular water on because there was nowhere for it to go, type thing. And next day, called around. Several places were like, well, it'll be 2-3 days for the mobile mechanics. It'll be 2-3 days to get to you. Some people it was the following week. Got a hold of this one place, and of course, every place is saying, well, I can't give you an estimate without looking at it. And I started off saying, I realize you can't give me an estimate, but I'll describe to you what it is. And assuming that that's correct, can you give me pretty much a ballpark? So I know I'm talking a couple hundred, couple thousand, that type of thing. Well, they gave me their service response fee and what their hourly is, and said, well, they're coming back from a job, so they'll stop by and take a look, and that way they can give me an estimate. And if we want to do it right then, we can pay. If not, there's no charge because they gave us an estimate, type thing. And that was Longship Mobile out in Pigeon Forge, and they were great. Ex-military as well there. And they were able to fix it right, because I knew I looked at, I probably could have connected, but I didn't have everything you needed, like the PVC pipe glue and all that stuff and everything. So I checked with them, and also she didn't want to have to be holding the thing up while I'm screwing stuff in either. So
nothing says love you like helping your husband underneath.
If it hasn't come through yet, she handles hooking up everything inside and setting stuff up inside a lot. Anything dealing with the utilities, and especially the gray and black tank, is up to me out there. So about Pigeon Forge itself, we've been there before. Pigeon Forge Landing RV Resort. It's the only place that we have extended most of the time. This time we extended the day ahead of time because, as I mentioned, we left early. But it's all concrete pads. They do allow your fencing and canopy, so that's one of the reasons why we went there too. Is I knew we were going to be there the longest, and we'd be able to have our fence up with the pups and be out with them and everything.
We did look at other.
Yeah, we looked at other ones around, and some were a lot cheaper, but I didn't know if they were pet friendly or not. There were other ones that were comparable, but we knew what we were getting there. There's a lot of RV resorts in Pigeon Forge,
Oh yeah.
and a lot of nice ones too. This one has just a regular pool and hot tub. There are some that have almost like little water park slide, type thing we've seen, but we were getting this one is on the river, so they do have 10 sites, and they actually have a couple RVs that are theirs that they rent out if you wanted to camp there but not have it. There's a lot of stuff to do in Pigeon Forge. Pigeon Forge is a tourist area, very much so. It's almost like being Orlando, but in the mountains on there. It is where Dollywood's at. So we did get to go up to the water park portion. It was one of the things I wanted to do because we spent all of our time in Florida and went to one water park, which was Disney Cove, which is wonderful. But we're in the Keys, we're in Tampa, never went in the ocean.
I don't even know how that happened.
There were water parks in Orlando. We actually have a membership to Busch Gardens, which included down in Florida. So we could have went to the water park there for free. Just timing. There were several things we wanted to do in Orlando, and we just never got it timed right. And of course, I had to work some of the days too. So we did do the water park in Dollywood for part of the day before they had to close for lightning. They didn't close the whole place, but they had to get everyone out of the water when lightning's so close until it gets further enough away. And we had an event that night, so it was time for us to go anyway, because by the time they opened back up, we would have had to leave on there. So we also did Hatfield McCoy's dinner theater, which we've done before. Massive food. It's Southern food. They advertise all you can eat, but I think they do that because they know they can get away with it, because the first serving of everything they bring you, we've been there a couple times and never asked for more because there's so much they bring out in the beginning on there. You almost have like half a chicken each. They do breast and thigh for each of you, and then barbecue pork and corn on the cob and coleslaw and mac and cheese and all types of stuff, and of course your rolls and all that. So, and any of that, it is truly all you can eat. You could ask for more, but we've never have on there. And then this is where it's a good thing. This is where the longest part of our trip was, because this is where I had to go on a business trip. So I flew out of Knoxville and left Daniela at the campsite with the pups on her own. So I did have to at least show her how to do the sewer side for dumping stuff if need be. Of course, magically it didn't need it while I was gone. But they wanted to get a situation where it's full. So we flew out of Knoxville, was the closest airport, really small airport, nice. But that was right after the computer crash that hit the world travel and everything. It wasn't Microsoft, but it was one of the updates to, I think, one of their security files or something, or antivirus or something. It updated the library that it goes to, and that crashed a bunch of computers you may have heard about in July here, where there was a lot of delays in flights. I got caught up in that. I left later in the day so that we could have some time during the day. But I came in, I was supposed to come in to Maine at 10:30 at night, got in about 3 a.m. because of all the delays at my connector. Not my initial flight, but my connector. So it wasn't even that I could show up to the airport later, But then the fun part was it also affected the hotel. We got all these digital cards that are keys now that they can program. That's great because they can program when you're checking out. So it will stop working after that. Well, their computer system that does that was affected by the crash too. So for the first 4 out of the 5 days I was there, they couldn't make any keys. So what that meant was they had a couple master keys that the hotel staff has if they need to get into the different rooms. But that meant that they had to have everyone who stayed in the hotel had to have someone go up and let them in their room every time. So whenever you left the room, you had to get someone to let you back in. So that's one of the other nice things about RV travel is flights. You can get there quicker. Hotels, yes, you have someone doing your linens and all that type of stuff, but they're affected by technology. The RV, you didn't have any problem getting into the RV while I was gone, huh?
Nope, not once.
No. We have electronic lock, but it's something that we programmed and it's local. So it doesn't get from the internet or any of that type of stuff. So you can travel where you need to, get into and out of. You don't need someone to let you into your RV unless you lock yourself out like we did one time last year.
That was fun.
But that's one of the nice things about RVing too. And you have all your own stuff. Your pets can be with you. You travel with your food, all that type of stuff. But another activity we did, you did a lot of while I was gone, but we did a few when we got back. You want to talk about?
Since I love to paint, and I found a company called Painting with a Twist, and there's two locations. They were both located in Knoxville, so it was about an hour drive, hour there, hour back. Two locations, one in Farragut and one in Powell, and I did most of mine in Powell, and then the ones that you and I did, we both did in Farragut, and I did a lot of painting events. I think altogether, I think I came back with like a total of 11 paintings from this trip. So it was a lot of fun. All the artists were really great. Because Brian and I, if we do a painting together, the painting's going to be, we're going to have two of the same paintings in our house. So, we try to shake things up and put a different spin on each of our own paintings so that they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, as a single person trying to figure out what all I can do by myself, that was fun for me. I don't know about anybody else, but that was fun for me. I also, while you were gone, I managed to make my way to Forbidden Caverns. The last time that we were there, they were closed because of all the storms that were coming in, and they're affected heavily by the storms because of flood issues. I mean, the one thing you don't want to be is in a cavern with flooding.
Yeah.
So if they do have a river that goes through, so obviously there's a water source from the top and the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Forbidden Caverns, and it was a good. I just happened to just get there and pay my ticket and walk right into the cavern, so I didn't have to wait for very long for the next tour or anything. So I got lucky with that. They do a $1 discount for military. So,
excellent. And one thing we did notice, being in a tourist area, any place you're a tourist area, you got people that are not from there that don't know how to drive there. Orlando, we had the same thing. People don't know how to drive. We lived for a long time outside of DC, so same thing. Any place where people come tourists, you got people that either drive different. You got people from other countries drive too, but also from different parts of the country. One thing you have to keep in mind if you go to Pigeon Forge, yes, it's a tourist area, but you're in the mountains. It's the Smoky Mountains. So roads, even secondary roads, their turns are sharp.
yes.
Even main roads. Then the week we were down there, we saw 2 cars flipped over on top of their roof. How bad they did the turn. One of them was on one of these secondary roads. I was going out to get us lunch, and I was driving on the secondary road, and it was already turned over, but people had already responded. Another one, when you were taking me to the airport, was on a main road that had a large grass median between, and we saw that coming the other way flip over right before we got to the intersection.
We didn't see what caused it. We just kind of saw it
flip.
We just saw it all of a sudden just flip over. So
we got out and helped, and other people did too. That's one nice thing is you had a lot of people that immediately responded, out of their vehicles and stuff.
I was really impressed. I mean, there were at least maybe 3, maybe 4 people on their phones.
We pulled over on our side. We had traffic to get across to the median. By the time we got across to the median, there were already people there with them. You called 911, and there was someone else that was already on the phone with 911 with them. So it's great that people the local people there are quick to respond and help, but be careful. Even on the main roads there, you can't drive like wherever it is you drive back home. Be cautious. You are in the mountains. And especially if you go on a back road, like some of these have a shortcut on a back road, and those were some hairpin turns coming up over a hill where you can't see. You were talking about
they even have signs that say
on certain roads,
limited sight distance, hill blocks view.
There's some of them that say no campers on this route, even though because it's a normal shortcut, no campers on here because the roads are just too narrow.
Yeah, they're very, very tight. They're there's one as you're turning onto, I think it was called Apple Valley. It is so sharp that you're literally turning into the oncoming lane, just coming around the corner. So that's just
instead of doing a 90 degree, you're doing about another 45 beyond that. So
yeah, it's very, very sharp.
On there.
But I mean, they're nice back roads. Very nice back roads.
And then we went into Gatlinburg, which Gatlinburg's wonderful. If you ever get a chance to be up there, definitely go into Gatlinburg, even if you're in Pigeon Forge. Lots of restaurants, shops, other things. You're literally right there. They have a large suspension bridge you can walk across up there from up in top.
They call it Skywalk.
Skywalk, yeah. And then we got our rings from a place called Steel Revolt. And the nice thing about that is we got about a year ago. And
not even a year ago,
but for the past 3 months,
actually past 6 months,
so about half that time Danielle lost a lot of weight, and so it wouldn't fit anymore, so she's wearing it on her necklace for a little while. They make all of them. They make them from their steel, but they also have different types of wood. So this is like a whiskey barrel wood, and some stone in the middle on there across it. And they have a program where it's warranted for life if it ever gets damaged, but also they have exchange program, meaning that if you ever change sizes, which she did, for basically $40, they'll exchange it for the new size. And so that's what we did while we were there. And since it was only $40 to exchange, we got a little extra bonus on there. I got her the engagement to it. She has her original engagement ring, but that's gold, but this one matches. So she has her set on there.
I couldn't say no. It was very hard to say no.
Yeah. So that's a great place. I would recommend. They do a lot more than just rings. They have a lot of stuff. They had like some watches I saw that the bands were all wood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Carved,
so apparently whiskey barrels, moonshine barrels, wine barrels, apparently they have a limited lifetime. So what of a limited lifetime of usage for
alcohol. Yeah.
For alcohol. So once they hit that limit, they were trying to figure out what to do with it, and somebody came up with the bright idea of repurposing it and turning it into jewelry.
Yeah.
And so rings is one of them.
Rings,
bracelets, watch bands. We saw some really, really nice.
And they had some other decorative stuff like in the house, that you could hang and stuff like that too. So
yeah. So they really work hard at, repurposing the barrels, which is kind of cool. It makes it very unique.
Yeah. And then while we're up there, I did the mountain coasters. I know you did that previously, but I want to do, which is you're in your own little cart. It's a roller coaster track, but each individual's in their own little cart, and you're going down with a speed. You have a little bit of break if you're going too fast, like on some of the turns, but it's a lot of fun because you're literally going through the mountain as you're coming down.
We got lucky. We literally got it in between lightning strikes.
Yeah, the lightning wasn't quite. The storm was coming in, but again, it was just like the water. They have a certain distance that when it's within a certain number of miles, they have to shut everything down, and then they come back up after it's a certain number of miles away again. Type thing. So it's not like they wait until it's literally striking right there. But I think it's like 15 miles or something like that. Whatever.
10.
Is it 10? Okay. And then when we left, we stopped at Buc-ee's on the way back. That's a wonderful place. I know it's a lot of pumps and stuff, but because of that, you get in and out quick. They keep everything very clean, well lit, and the inside. Um, I've heard great food from there. Restrooms are very clean. Again, I got footage. We'll out this year, hopefully. um, but it's wonderful. So we stopped there on the way back to gas up.
And they have all 3 locations. Every time that we've been in, all 3 locations at checkout are
Move
open.
quick. Yeah. Oh, one thing I enjoyed there. The downside was I tried to pay at the pump and I had plenty on the card, but I was like, why is it not taking? Apparently, it authorizes a very high amount, higher than what it was my card I was using. So I went in to pay for the pump, and you would think it's like great, because they got these long lines, but the lines move very quick. And the first time I saw this at the gas station too. First off, we talked about the bathrooms; those are nice. They got the little like lights outside the stalls to let you know if it's open or not, type thing, like parking at a
Garage.
airport or something,
Yeah.
Back to my story on the gas up, got up to the register, gave them the pump number we were at and how much I wanted to put on. They typed in, I didn't tell you this, they type in the pump number and a camera comes up on that pump number to see the vehicle to ask you, is that the right one, before they put the money on there.
Oh, wow.
So they verify with you that, okay, because they got so many of them, because I think I was like pump 48 or something. And so I was like, I want to put so much on 48. So they hit a button and point up to a screen over the door and says, is that your vehicle you want? I was like, yeah, it is. Okay. And they put it in.
Cool.
So that is really cool. I've never seen that at any truck stop, gas station, anything on there. So it's a lot of little neat little things that we discover at Buc-ee's each time we go in there. There isn't one local yet. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. But the ones we have done, is Tennessee's one that we've been in, has been great. But so that's kind of a recap of the stuff that we did during this 2-month trip. And so in that process, part of it was to figure out, could we do this? Well, the first test was, would we still be together and talking to each other after 2 months in that space? So that worked. We're still together. And a matter of fact, not are we still together, but upgraded a little bit there. So that's one lesson learned, is that you can be in a 33-foot long RV with 2 medium-sized pups and survive.
Yeah.
On there. I know those of you that live in the roads, like 2 months, that isn't anything, but for us, it's our first try at it. So that was
especially when you add in the work.
Working on the road too. So
that was,
Danielle was a trooper. There was several times where last minute changes happened, and we were going to do something when I got off work, because hey, we're in the Keys, but I got to work half day today. Well, half day turned into I was waiting on stuff, and so instead of getting off at noon, I got off at 4, type thing. Or my trip to Maine, I'm part of management, so I had to leave a day early. Found that out like, a week ahead of time, type thing. So certain things like that, had to adjust. Had to adjust to things not working on the road and having to do fixes on the road and not take it into a shop because we're living in it. A lot of people working full time realize, okay, sometimes stuff has to be fixed, but you're also living there. So what do you do on there? So
MacGyver.
Yeah. So you learn to do some of the fixes yourself. And we, of course, being YouTubers, we got film. So that'll come out later. But one of the biggest lessons I think we learned was managing your finances. That is huge. And a big part of that is, one, is budget, just like any household, but you have a different aspect to budget. First off, we have to decide spending. Are we on vacation spending, or are we on working trip spending? And for those of you that haven't done that before, there is a difference.
Yeah.
When you have money that, is like you're working, it costs a little more to be on the road. Of course, it's offset if you worked full time from the road. You don't have the expense of a mortgage and house, type thing. But is a little more expensive when we're on the road compared to at home. But also vacation is, if you're ever gone on vacation before, think about it. You spend more when you're on vacation in a week than at home for a week, type thing. So you got to kind of just, okay, yeah, we kind of did a little bit of both because we're going to places we hadn't been before, but we probably need to next time look a little better at how much vacation spending are we going to do compared to work, because we spent a little more than we anticipated
Yeah,
on there.
yeah, most definitely.
In addition to the emergencies that come up. So that brings us to our next thing, emergency fund. Make sure you have an emergency fund because, as we mentioned, some of the things that needed to be done while we were on the road. We had a blowout. That was about 800. Had to get the Jeep tire fix where it normally would have been about 50 was about 250 because we were in the Keys and had to have someone come to us. I didn't have an air pump to be able to get to a shop the next day. There's maintenance you got to do on the road. If you're driving for a while, you're going to eventually take it in, get the oil change or stuff like that. Probably have to bring it in to do that because most campsites are not going to let you do extensive maintenance while you're on the campsite.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even allow you to wash your vehicle while you're on there, type thing. And so some of the things we needed to do on there is we had the blowout, we had to get the PVC hooked back up and test.
The refrigerator door kept falling
refrigerator door. We had a common problem with Norcold is there on the door part, the part that goes into the hinge is plastic, it's molded plastic, and the bottom one has a tendency to break. If you go out to YouTube, you'll see several where they talk about that. So you can get a brand new door sent to you and replace it for several hundred. For my particular model, they come in different price points depending on what you have. My particular one, I think I looked up between $300 to $400.
Oh wow!
But even then, it takes. When I was looking at it, probably about a week to get there. I did what a lot of people do, even before going on YouTube and finding that other people do it. I got the Gorilla Super Glue, works on everything for 24-hour set time, and glued it back in place. And that lasts in place of use, even with proper set, for maybe a week and then breaks again. Some of them work quicker, but we didn't let it sit for a whole 24 hours in that case. But a week or less, and then the glue breaks again. So I did have to come up with my own fix for it, and there is a video for it. And now it's going to be stronger than any type of replacement. But wait for it. When I post that video of us fixing it, I will put in the description below here. And kind of good little MacGyver, if you will, on it. And then we also, while I was gone, she wanted to be able to see who was outside if someone comes to the RV before answering the door. So I did install cameras. We do have internet, so I have my own router inside the RV because of work. And so that's all you need for Alexa or some of these other tools. So I did install a Ring doorbell. I did the version that doesn't have to be wired. It's battery operated. And we have some Blink cameras that we put on the perimeter. And those easily come off when you're traveling and snap right back on for when you're there. So
yeah, it was for me, it was a little unnerving because I hadn't being home by yourself is one thing because it's your home. Being on the road by yourself and being a female, that's a whole different thing. So I was a little nervous, a little paranoid. So I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for things.
And then another thing to keep in mind for lessons learned is storage and space. You don't have much. So pack what you need, but try not to overpack because you only have limited space. We do use the overhead of ours for storage when we're on a campsite because we don't sleep up there. We have to sleep in the back. But when we were in Wichita, we did have the grandbabies. We were set for that. And we had our daughter and her husband also come up and stay. So we kind of had to rearrange a little bit. But we got creative with it.
Yeah, we did.
Shields is a sporting goods kind of outdoor everything store out there in the Midwest, and there was
Think
one
of
near us.
Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah, think of Bass Pro Shops on steroids,
Yeah.
pretty much. It's wonderful. It can be an evil store because you will find something when you go in there.
Oh my goodness, we found a lot of something.
Yeah, we found a lot of somethings. We could spend a lot more if we had the money at that point.
Oh my goodness.
But it is a great story, and they aren't sponsoring us or anything. It's just we happen to go in there, and it is great. We really enjoyed it. But one of the things they did have was collapsible crates with top, so we were able to get a lot of the stuff that we had stored in the RV into crates at least to move around. And we had, for early on in our trip, we had a portable bike shed, if you will. It's a pop up. They'll hold like 2 bikes inside, and you can zip up, but you can put other stuff in there. So when we had people come, since we had the canopy up and our fence, we put that up, but put the crates of stuff we didn't need to get to out there because it's weatherproof. And basically, we had our own outdoor shed.
Yeah.
Without having an actual shed, type thing. So you adapt and make do, but keep in mind that, yeah, space is definitely of a premium, and how much stuff are you going to have as far as space when you're camping, because you don't want a lot of stuff outside that could get damaged by rain.
No.
Because you are going to have weather, type thing. Even with the canopy, we're always going to get inside the perimeter of the canopy, type thing. So, and then another thing we found traveling south and Midwest was the heat. June and July, as you're aware, was hot all across. Even back home here, I hear it got up to 100 on there, but it definitely hit 100 where we were at.
It was kind of, what I found interesting was we survived Florida, that far south, with minimal issues. I mean, we were literally Barrington, we were exposed. We had no shade around us whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Get down to the Keys, we had one palm tree, but it was always facing opposite of the RV, no matter what side of the island that the sun was on. So we had like no shade whatsoever. We got a good shade tree when we were in Orlando, and we survived. We got to Oklahoma, we damn near baked.
Yeah. Well, Oklahoma, we were literally on a parking lot almost. In Wichita, yeah, we were in the gravel parking in the center. So we did have a tree on one side of us. It would probably been better if we were on the other side, because it was on our backside where our utilities were. So it gave some shade onto the RV, but not where we were sitting.
Yeah.
But the canopy setup worked well in Wichita to kind of give a little bit of extra shade.
Oh yeah.
And Orlando too. But I think part of Florida was in Barrington. There wasn't much wind, so we could have our canopy out a lot more. Not canopy, our awning out a lot more. The Keys, there was constant wind. So it was hot, but there was constant wind to the point where you could almost never have your awning out. But that helped, I think, with some of the heat, because it constantly was moving the air.
Yeah.
In Orlando, we had the shade over there. But yeah, so some things to deal with heat. I know other people have done this. We never had to, but I understand why, because when we hit the Midwest in Oklahoma, and then Wichita later too, but we went and got some of the Reflexics, that silver insulation, and got a big roll of it so you could cut to shape and put up in most of the windows I could get to and the front. Now we have a insulated window shade for like snow and stuff like that we put on the front window that gives us privacy, but putting the reflective inside on both windows and the front windshield helped out a lot too.
Oh my goodness, yes,
on
it
temperature.
Did. We have 2 windows left to cover.
Yeah.
But I mean, just putting it on 4 of the windows really
and I even put it in because we have regular covers for our vents, roof vents, but the skylight in the shower is odd shaped, as most of y'all are aware if you've ever been in an RV. So it's kind of hard to find the right shape for that. So I cut out reflexives to put over that too. And everything I've attached was with the 3M Velcro. So that's easy to take off and put back on for all the windows and stuff like that. So that helped out a lot once we finally did that.
Oh yeah.
We were still baking when we were outside, but much better inside on there.
And the pups were much happier.
Yeah. And then, of course, I already mentioned about the camera upgrades that I do on that. And internet on the road. That's something to take into account. I have a router that uses the phone signal. And so I can actually still use the internet while we're driving, as well as I need good internet because I do video conference and stuff too. So we have a cell phone booster outside that brings the antenna in. And then I have a router that looks for the cell phone signal for my internet. That works out well for us. The only problem I need to contact the company is it seems like our router loses internet like once a day. I have to reset it like once a day.
Yeah.
But because it's always got the Wi-Fi part, whether it's got the internet or not, the other upgrades like Alexa or the camera system and stuff like that still work because all they're looking for is just a Wi-Fi, type thing. So, but internet on the road is something you need to look at depending on where you are. We're always at campsites. We don't really boondock, so I'm not as concerned about not having some type of cell signal. I mean, the mountains was a little weak, but I still had a signal. But most of your campsites are fine. The good thing about Pigeon Forge too is they're one of those people that have really done a lot to upgrade. They've got antennas for their internet, several throughout their whole campsite. So it's not like your traditional where you have to be next to the building to get signal. So we were able to actually use theirs and do high speed some. But also you have your own cell signal. So if you're working from the road, you're remote, most of them have a requirement of a strong internet connection. So you need to make sure that you can do that. And then one of your big things we learned on the road was how to break down the night before, because most time travel day is a work day for me.
Yeah.
So with that, we only have a certain amount of time to break down, and I'll work later in the day to cover for that. But I take a couple hours in the morning to do the breakdown and get on the road. So we don't have all morning to do breakdown, and we got to take care of pups in the morning too. So one of the things we found is we start the night before to break down everything we can, so that the only thing we have left is the cover, our windshield, stepping stool, because sometimes with the leveling, we're kind of a high step out, and the utilities hook up outside.
Yeah, we kind of learned to adjust getting broken down a lot quicker and a lot easier that way, at least most of the outside stuff that we can.
Yeah. We have to readjust things inside because things shift once we bring the slides in, and our pups, their regular rooms are on the dinette, which is in the slide. So that's where they eat, but they travel on our bed back in the back. We do have them secure so that they're safe, but switching between rooms is something we do after we bring them out for their walk. So I don't bring the slides in until we've moved them from rooms, because enough activity happens on travel day, so they're going to be anxious anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't want to move the slides in with them sitting there. Not that it hurt them in any way, but it's going to get them more anxious.
Especially Maggie.
Yeah.
Maggie has a hard time every once in a
adjusting,
while going from one to the other.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things that we forgot to mention was I did my first interview.
Yes.
I did my first interview while Brian was gone. I ran across this very lovely gentleman. His name is Jim, and his son Jackson. Everybody's got these big giant monsters, big A's, big toes, everything,
Fifth
just
wheel, stuff like that.
I mean, everything just really.
Our Class C is 33 feet. So ours is big too.
Yeah. So I mean, everything is just really huge, and then they get this tiny little camper.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it in your pocket and go. Wasn't quite that small, but anyway. So I got to I interviewed him. I asked him, because I was like, oh wow, it's like, how did you come across this tiny little thing? And so he started, we started talking and things like that. And I asked him, hey, I say, we have a YouTube channel. Do you mind if I interview you for this and everything? And he was very cooperative. So I don't know, Jim, if you're watching out, we're going to get that video out, soon.
Mm-hmm.
So
that should be sometime this month.
So anyway, I thought that was kind of cool that I did it myself.
Yep. And the nice thing, and just as a little preview to that, one of the nice things I thought about their little camp setup is their awning is not just a normal awning. It looked like it kind of went around the corner type thing. So you have the kitchen in the back and the side, but it actually was one of the, I've seen this on a couple of the larger RVs, tailgating ones, but to see on a small one where it's literally a whole corner is one piece of fabric to cover out on there.
And he said that it doesn't only takes, roughly, 10 minutes for each of his setups. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, they have outside little shower thing and stuff like that you mentioned. But we'll get that interview out this weekend. Again, we'll put that in the description below once that's out as well. So, and then finally we had our travel home. All good things must come to an end. And we came home here. They're still doing some road work at the time on our main road coming into us. So it's kind of narrow.
Very
coming
narrow.
in. We always unhook before we get on that road because it's a narrow road. And so I drive the Jeep behind during that part. One of the things on Packup that I didn't mention, because we couldn't put fences everywhere when we are every site. So I used to carry the fences in the back of the Jeep. But then if we couldn't go anywhere, the back of the Jeep's completely full while we're at the campsite. So what I started doing, since I knew we're always towing, is I started putting stuff that we always put out, such as our camping chairs, ottomans, the rugs, in the Jeep. And that opened up space in the basement of our RV for our fences. So that way, if we get to a campsite where we can't set up fences, we can still empty the Jeep out and have our campsite set up and have use of, if we need to go grocery shopping or something, or pick up stuff while we're out sightseeing, we have space in our Jeep.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So this is one of the things you also learn on the road, is to adjust things to what works best for you on there. So then we got home late night. We never have traffic, but we had issue getting back in just because some people were impatient on us backing in. So, and got our pups back in their yard and started unpacking the next day. We got the food and stuff, so I didn't have to run the fridge on propane back in the house. And then figure we'll start unpacking the next day. But the next couple days back here has been 100 as well, heat advisory. So we've gotten some stuff out, but we'll get the rest of it unpacked in the next day or two here.
Yeah, work on getting it cleaned out and inside and out.
And one thing adjusting, originally was going to see Deadpool and Wolverine when we got back from my trip in Pigeon Forge, but we had other stuff we needed to adjust to when I got back and then coming here. So we're going to go see it today. A little behind the power curve. Our kids are grown, but they've been asking us, like, have you seen it yet? Because we're going to all see it the same day, even though we're in different parts of the country. But that was a plan, but we weren't able to do that. So
yeah, so they're trying to be very careful about
what they talk about.
So
I told her we can't put off any longer because YouTube is getting very difficult to avoid spoilers. We all know what it's like out there, right? But with that, another thing, one of the activities that, like I said, you did a lot of, and we did a few of, was that sip and paint. Those were a lot of fun up there. We did a few of them, and we actually have behind us here on the wall, 2 of them. As you mentioned, we try to, even though it's the same picture, we try to approach it differently since they're both going to be in the house. So this is the last one we did, which was called Watermelon Gnome. And you can see, let me scoot over a little bit. Other way.
I can't go anywhere.
Yeah. So you see
I get an idea.
there. So the one by the door. Here you go. As you adjust the focus.
Where am I at? There we go.
Here you go. So that is mine there. Of course, the focus is, bring it even with me. There you go. Oh, okay. So that's one I did. And so you got a little bit with the light, the sun and stuff like that. By comparison, you can, even from the wall, you can see that hers is a bit different on there with it. So that thing I like about this, I mean, you can follow exactly what the artist did, and that's fine. Most people do, but we pick different colors and stuff like that. As you can see, the shape of what it is the same, but there are really two different paintings, and we do that with a lot of our stuff. So if you're into that, Daniela started doing this herself and then had me do a few. She didn't start off as an artist. She didn't think she could paint when she started, but it was something to do that was an escape.
Oops.
We'll get it in a second. But something you could do that just got away from the day to day. And with that, we got tons of paintings now. We'll rotate them out in the background, but it's been quite an event. She's getting very good at the different ones on there. So
it's been a very very interesting adventure. I definitely learned better financial management.
Yep. We got the flexibility down as far as that stuff can change. What do we do now type thing? We got that down.
Yeah.
Because plans, we had sometimes where we were going to plan. It really only came down to if we had something booked where it was an issue, type thing. But if we were deciding, okay, well, when we get off here or on Saturday, we're going to go down here. But like, for example, we're going to do a water park Saturday. Well, it rains all day. So what are we doing? Okay, well, there's these 5 things that are indoor that we could do, type thing. So it worked out well as far as adjusting. Finances is something we definitely need to look better at before we hit the road.
I think once we settle back down and update our spreadsheets, we can pull everything out and see exactly where we spent
more than other.
One of the things that we had, one of the issues that we had coming back, unfortunately, and it took a few days, which kind of left us a little stranded, so to speak, was we got hit with fraud.
Yeah.
We got hit with fraud.
I've got a fuel card at one of the truck stop places. So I have a credit card there, and we got a fraudulent charge on there. Called them up once I found out what it was, because I made up my payment for the month. And it normally takes a few days for it to hit. I mean, it says 3 to 5 days, but it can take 7 to 8, type thing. So I wasn't too worried about that. My available hadn't changed yet. But after a little while beyond that, when it was like 10 days, I went online to look to see why the payment hadn't hit. And the payment had hit, but there was a charge from Miami, Florida for like $500. Well, first off, our RV can only take about $150 worth of gas, in the tank that we were at. And second, the time that we never stopped in Miami, but second and third, the time when the charge was made, we were in Wichita, Kansas. And you could see from our charges we did make, until I maxed it out on there, was going from Florida, Orlando, to Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, on the way to Oklahoma. So you can see, obviously, we were leaving there, and then all of a sudden it pops up in Miami. So I did call it in. They took care of it. They investigated. They didn't need anything else from me because they said, well, the fraud department may call or email. Didn't. It got cleared. The problem is, of course, since it was a fraudulent charge, they had to cancel the card and we're on the road. So even though that money became available again, we had to find other funds on cards and stuff to pay for gas, because I normally use that for all of our gas. So we had to get into our budget for other ways to pay for the gas on our way back, because the card is going to get mailed back home, which is good because that's part of, avoiding additional fraud.
Yeah.
Is to get to your own address. So that's something to think about too. I know people do different mail and stuff like that. If we ever went full time, we would have to look into how to do our mail. We were on the road for 2 months, so yes, there was stuff that got here that had to wait till we got back, because I didn't have a mail forwarding because we're going to be all over the place. I know there are services that RVers use, but if we were going to be on the road for longer than 2 months, more of a full time, we would probably have to look into that.
So if you're watching the show, comment below and let us know what mail services works for you, and let us know, because that is something that would be helpful to know. So,
and I'm wondering how that would work with some stuff that is supposed to be not forwarded, like your renewed credit card or stuff like that, type thing.
Yeah,
that comes out.
that would be kind of cool. So if you're watching, please comment below and let us know what service works for you and how you get it to work.
And if we missed anything that, as a full timer or doing a long term previously, or even if it's short term, if there's anything that you've picked up as tips or tricks or things that you wish you had thought of before hitting the road, put in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. These are just stuff that we encountered and thought about, but this was just 2 months out of the year. There could be other things that we haven't even thought of, that we need to plan for the next year when we do this.
Yeah.
May not be 2 months. Maybe I know we're going to do at least a month sometime in January, probably.
Yeah.
But
that's going to be fun.
If there's anything that you've encountered or you've had questions about, we have a great community of people that would love to answer those questions too. Just drop them in the chat.
Yeah, we got lucky. I have a friend in Tampa, so we were able to use his address for some of our Amazon.
For some of the Amazon stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the campsites are okay with Amazon. We did have stuff come out to us at Pigeon Forge through Amazon that we needed. But your other mail, the mail that normally comes to your house, I mean, we've got a stack of stuff to go through from 2 months of mail. The good thing is most of your credit cards, statements and stuff like that, you have online. So you can manage it through that, type stuff, your bills, paying your bills and all that. But there are certain things that you would need. And I know there are services out there, but I'm not sure how it works with, secured things, like stuff that needs signature, or something like that, packaged, type stuff. But so let us know, or like I said, if you have questions on how we did certain things, cooking on the road, stuff like that, leave your comments below. We'd be happy to hear from you, and we'd be even more happy as well to hear about hints that you've picked up on the road. So with that, don't forget to like and subscribe. And for myself, Brian,
Daniela,
and the camping pups, Maggie and Jackson, happy camping with the pups.